Friend of the program, Arthur Staple, was on Morning Cup of Hockey, which is a daily face-off show, and we have a quote from Arthur Staple on Lou Lamoriello's potential trade deadline approach. So we're gonna try something new. We'll play the audio. It's about 90 seconds, a minute and a half, and then we will react to that. How's that sound?
Perfect.
All right, let's roll it.
The reason they're in the problem that they're in. So when we were out in Vegas a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and they were at the bottom, they hadn't really started this winning streak. And he said, I have faith. We have time. I'm not looking to do this. And you talk to other people around the league who have called on Nelson and Pajot and Palmieri and maybe even any other guys. And the only thing that those executives are hearing is, I want to sign Brock Nelson. I'm not interested in hearing what your offer is. And they still have a month until the trade deadline. Lots of things can happen. And I've written many times that, like, Lou believes in math. He's a big proponent of analytics. He's a realist. He understands. So those things are going to collide at some point. If the Islanders don't win another 6 or 7 in a row, that they're just going to run out of real estate here, and they're going to be too far out. There's going to be too many teams ahead of them, and it'll be time to figure out that you do need to sell. And he'll still have time to do that. It's going to take a lot, though. And I think that reality is the thing that frustrates fans the most, that you're not seeing what everybody else can see, that this team has been real mediocre for 4 years and needs to make some changes. And maybe even in the off season, if you don't trade these guys, Brock Nelson may decide, I've got the world at my feet. The cap's going way up. He might get 7 or 8 million from somebody to go somewhere else, whether, home to Minnesota, Winnipeg, wherever. So I think that part is the frustrating part for the fans, that makes them maybe want to say, can we just lose so we can, there's no options left to do it.
Oh boy.
I'm just taken, not aback, because this is not a new thing, but Arthur Staple just gets it. He just gets it. And why wouldn't he? He's been around for so long. Everything he said is absolutely no lies detected by anything there.
Yeah, I like how, so it was initial, oh my God, like Lou saying, I want to give these guys extensions. Like, this is not what you were hoping to be hearing. But then I kind of, not that he walked it back, but he added the additional context of, if in another month things aren't improving and they're kind of in the same spot, then Lou's going to have to look himself in the mirror and make that tough decision. But I don't know, it doesn't make you feel like overly confident one way or the other that they are definitely moving off of them or definitely extending them, but something I think we need to consider here.
Yeah, it gets, how do I want to say this? I think it makes the position of he's playing hardball a little bit harder to defend, because this is now the second time where he's like, we're contending, we're going to keep contending, and we're going to re-sign these guys, which is something he's done in the past. Right, this is very much a Lou move to make. But as Arthur says, like, unless they win another 6 in a row, and they really leapfrogs. Although I don't know if they even need to win 6 in a row. I don't know if maybe lie detected. I don't think he's lying, but like, he's obviously not. But the standings say that the Islanders don't need to win 6 games in a row to be in a playoff position. They're 3 points back of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who certainly have a game in hand on the Islanders, but it's not that big of a gap to overcome. It's 3 points, man.
No, if they keep if they and everyone else kind of stays in that same spot, then you are in it at 3 points out. And, there's still 2 teams, or 3 if you want to count Tampa Bay, teams that you'd have to jump in front of. Boston's right there. Columbus is right there. Rangers on the doorstep. Montreal's in the mix. Pittsburgh's been playing a little bit better recently, although they just lost an overtime game. I think it's gonna be a stressful next month here, Mitch, and I think that's why I wanted to bring this conversation up on the show, is because it's something we discuss. I make the joke that we talk about it every single time we get on the mics, but it's the biggest story for the Islanders right now. Yeah, these games are important, but more often than not, and it's proven by when you go into our post-game streams, everyone's talking about, well, yes, moments of the game, but the bigger overarching conversations of what the hell are they going to do here in the next month. And we're going to be sitting here stressed out, I think, come deadline day.
We absolutely will, because it's going to come down to the wire. As Arthur Staple is professing there, he's going to make a decision when he is forced to make a decision. And that means that the time is running out on taking said decision, which shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone. We're talking about Lou Lamoriello here, the man who coined, I mean, not coined, but lives by the phrase, if you have time, take it. And he's taking his goddamn time. He's going to do it. Because what else is he going to do? Hopefully none of them get injured. If oh my God, if they get injured is the only worry, really.
Yeah,
It's not the only one. It's the biggest one.
That's the worst of them all.
Yeah. But like, you're right. They have teams to leapfrog, but you're 2 points back of Columbus. You've got a game in hand on them. You're 3 points back of Boston. You've 3 games in hand on them. And they're not neither of those teams are playing well. Tampa, Boston, and Columbus are 5-4-1 in their last 10 games, whereas the Islanders are 8-2-0. And they just beat the Vegas Golden Knights, who are second in the Pacific Division and fourth in the Western Conference, when they only had 14 shots to win. It's a pretty clutch win that they got there.
It is a pretty clutch win that they got there.
It's just they're playing so much better than the teams that they have to jump over. The 3 teams, as you mentioned, to jump over, that it's not outside of the realm of possibility. It's really not. But therein still lies the problem. Like, okay, great. You did it. You made the playoffs, but we still need you to sell Brock Nelson. Will he do it? Just based off what Arthur's saying, probably not.
No. And then that brings up the fear that I have that you just kind of walk him up to free agency and then he leaves and you get nothing back. And I don't want to hear the spin of, oh, well, it frees up $6 million. You could spend that $6 million elsewhere. That's not good enough for me.
No.
Just the cap space isn't enough. Like, this is a team that is desperate for an influx of young talent. And if you're able to acquire a first round pick and a young player, that goes a long way. Even if it is, for 25th overall pick, whatever it ends up being, right? Like that goes a really long way to revitalizing the farm system and revitalizing your assets, which is something they just really haven't had a whole lot of over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, man. Tage Thompson drafted 26th overall. Brett Howden drafted 27th overall. There's the guys who have over 100 points in the NHL. Tage Thompson has 300. I'm sure, like, you go back another year, 2015, you're looking at who was drafted in 25, 26. Jack Roslovic, Noah Juleson, not necessarily. Travis Konechny, 24. Brock Besser, 23. Like, you get some pretty good players in that area. You're adding that on top of the $6 million that you freed up. That's huge, because we can't just rely on freeing up $6 million. I know if you go back and look at my writing history for Eyes on Isles, you'll see a couple of times that are written, the Islanders are finally a destination for free agents. That's not the case. It's not. It felt like it was at the time. It is certainly not. So we cannot rely on just like we have money that we can spend on free agents, because none of us are confident that the Islanders can land those players.
No,
not because the GM is incapable of doing so. It's just they don't want to come.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.